How about now? Mic check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it's working now. Hey everybody, Brett Buffington here in the KHOU 11 News Newsroom. We're following the latest on this Elizabethton, Tennessee plane crash that injured Dale Earnhardt Jr. this afternoon. He was taken to the hospital along with his wife, their daughter. The family dog was also on the plane, a pilot and another passenger. Everyone's okay, and that's remarkable, especially when you look at this video. And we, again, are dealing with a situation like
We'll check it out. Thank you.
Taking video from one of our affiliate stations, this time the one there in Tennessee, and that's who this reporter standing next to the scene, standing in the box here next to me is. As soon as he steps out, we'll come back and I'll show you the latest there from Tennessee. But again, this happened around 4 o'clock local time there, 3 o'clock here in Houston. According to the FAA, this plane was landing there at the airport and ran off the end of the runway. I'll show you the Google map here that shows where we're talking about. So we're hearing from the FAA the plane was landing on runway 24, which you can see the 2 and the 4 right there. Ran completely down the runway off and then was in this area down where you see this ditch here. We pulled this video earlier. We played it on the news at 5. If you haven't seen it, this is the scene just after that. Again, just a remarkable video of this crunched up. This is a Cessna Citation jet. And you can see, obviously, a big fire there. The family remarkably able to get out of this plane after it ran off the end of the runway there. And being told that it doesn't appear that any of the people who were on board have any serious injuries. We know that Dale Earnhardt Jr. did go to the hospital to be evaluated there, and haven't heard an update from the hospital at least. And can go to KHOU.com. We have some video there that shows him actually at the scene. Exclusive video that we got from one of the affiliates in Tennessee shows the people, I imagine rescue workers, with him just after this happened. Likely that the family was able to get out of there before the fire started, thankfully. Again, we shared this tweet at 4 o'clock. This is Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s sister tweeting this out. I can confirm Dale, Amy, and their child, along with his 2 pilots, were involved in a crash in Bristol, Tennessee this afternoon. Everyone is safe and has been taken to the hospital for further evaluation. We have no further information at this time, and they're certainly thanking everyone for their understanding. Isla, that's how you pronounce the daughter's name, even though it says, it looks like Isla. I didn't want to mispronounce it, and I had a pronouncer here in front of me. So any questions, comments? I'm monitoring what you're saying here about this. Just give me 1 second and I'll get those popped up here going at the bottom of the screen. Just had to start the video first, but obviously thoughts and prayers with the Earnhardt family this afternoon, as they certainly a scary moment. You can only imagine. Not sure where this plane was coming from. The FAA, the NTSB, they will be conducting this investigation to figure out what went wrong, why the plane ran off the end of the runway. But a remarkable story, especially when you see that video, that everyone was able to get out and everyone is okay. So just going through here on Facebook to see if there's any questions and any comments. Certainly a lot of people, Diamond asking what happened, just went through it. I'll repeat it in just a second. Hello everybody. Gay watching from Spring there. Mary, yeah, absolutely. Thank God no one was killed. Oh. So we're going to go back and see if we can go to the shot here of the scene and kind of show you what we're showing you on the map. This again, the FAA said, excuse me, the plane was landing on runway 24, and I'm going to pull up their notes that I just got from a spokesperson for the FAA on that side of the country. Give me just 1 second to find that in my email here. And that is Kathleen Virgin. She's a spokesperson for the FAA, and she says the FAA can report that a Cessna Citation rolled off the end of runway 24, which, again, I was showing you on Google Maps. Go back to that shot just for a second. This is runway 24. You can see that number there. The plane rolled off the end of runway 24 and caught fire after landing at the Elizabethton Municipal Airport in Tennessee. That happened around 3:40 this afternoon local time. And preliminary indications are that the two pilots and 3 passengers were aboard. They asked local authorities to transport all who are aboard to the hospital They're also depending on local officials to release their names, what we do know from the Earnhardt family, who was on the plane. It does look like they're about to have a press conference there in Tennessee, or at least the reporter who is on the ground there is about to speak to someone. So when that happens, of course, I'll bring up the audio and jump over that live shot if there's any information. Looks like a sheriff's official there is going to be part of this guy's live shot. So we'll dip into that when it happens. But again, if you haven't seen this video, I'm going to pull it back up and play it one more time. This is just incredible. This is the scene just moments after this Cessna Citation rolled off the end of the runway, and you can see the incredible smoke and flames coming from that. It's unclear where the plane was coming from. We do know there was some type of NASCAR event not too far from here today, because we saw the local station here, this the CBS station there in Elizabethton, Tennessee. They were talking to other NASCAR drivers, and of course Dale Earnhardt retired, now a TV commentator, but we saw their sports team talking to other people at a NASCAR track not far away. So let's just dip into this guy's live shot really quick.
Earnhardt Jr., his wife and child, 2 pilots, and a dog. Around 3:40 this afternoon, that plane attempted to land. It made that landing, but it was not able to stop at the end of the runway. It crashed through a fence and ended up in Highway 91. Amazingly, the Earnhardt family, the pilots, and their dog were able to walk out of what we now have heard it was a burning plane. They were assessed by EMS, which happened to actually be at headquarters just a few hundred yards away, and then were taken to a hospital for precautionary treatment. We now have jet fuel that continues to burn underneath the road. At least we did, but I want to get an update now from some of the key players here. We have the sheriff of Carter County, we have the Elizabethton police chief, we have the Elizabethton fire chief, and I want to just bring them in if I can. Sheriff Lunsford, thank you for joining us on ABC Tri-Cities. It looks to me like that jet fuel is no longer burning. I can ask the chief about that, but if that's maybe a more pressing question, are we still dealing with a fire here?
Well, it's still burning and somewhat underground, but it's dying down quicker than we thought it would.
To my untrained ear, that sounds like good news.
Oh, yeah, good news. Maybe we'll be able to get to the airport and some of the roadway open back up a little sooner than we thought.
Sheriff, we're still dealing with a closed airport from what you're hearing?
Yes, from what I'm hearing, yes.
And many people tonight are concerned about the Earnhardt family. I'm hearing from many of you that you're not hearing those updates either. Do you have any information?
We won't get any information as far as his condition. We will not be advised of what his condition is.
It seems to me that the pressing concern for you all right now is making sure the scene is secured. Is that an accurate assessment? And what's going on to make sure that happens?
We'll have officers from Elizabeth Police Department, Sheriff's Office, and the Highway Patrol that will be here overnight, and I think the chief will have some fire personnel here manning this. You never know what's going to happen, so we'll be here 24/7 until NTSB releases the scene.
Chief, for about 45 minutes tonight, I was calling it diesel fuel, which was out of my mind. Jet fuel, burning jet fuel in water, that's a concern. But you say burning was the best method, and that's what's happened, right?
In this particular situation, it was the best method, is to let it go ahead and burn itself out, because we couldn't make access under the road. But we were able to keep it off of the nearby pond and runoff water, so we are keeping it out of the environment.
And that's great news. You earlier said 1,000 gallons. I know it's an estimate. Is that about right still?
That was what was reported to be on the plane. And I think all the fuel has burned. That was on the plane.
It was underneath the road. The fire was underneath the concrete. Is there concern about the condition of the road itself and the ability to reopen traffic?
Not at this point. We don't think it got hot enough to do any damage to the structure. We just had to let it burn itself out. It was floating on top of the water.
Chief Jason Shaw from Elizabethton has stepped down here, so I'm going to ask you, Sheriff. I know there was an effort underway to work with TDOT to try to move traffic through some detour routes right around the crash site. Has that been confirmed yet, and do you have any information?
As we're rerouting traffic, again, if you're local here, you know when I say Lynn Valley, if you'll use Lynn Valley, you can bypass the scene going up Stony Creek. You cannot access the airport road because you'll have fire hoses across it, am I correct?
Right.
We'll open that up as soon as we can, and once we do that, people will be able to easily get around the scene.
I'm seeing a TDOT truck pull in with cones and barrels.
Correct.
So is that detour open now right around here, or are you talking about people can go through Lynn Valley?
People can go Lynn Valley at this time. They can, and everyone's around here. If you're going to up Stony Creek or Highway 91, If you'll use Lynn Valley, you won't have any problems.
But if you don't have to, don't. I know that was the emphatic word early on.
No, please stay away from the scene. It's bad enough as it is. Everything's under control. No one's at any risk. So we're just right now in a support role, waiting on the NTSB and the FAA.
Jet crashes with fires. It seems to me maybe there was a matter of time when the Earnhardts and their pilots had a chance to get off that plane. Had they been incapacitated, we can't speculate what could have happened, but timing seems to have been razor thin here. I don't want to speculate on that. I'm just curious based on what you all have heard. It seemed like they got out just in time. Is that a fair assessment?
I think that's a fair assessment. The first arriving unit saw heavy flames coming from the fuselage, and the occupants of the plane were already out near the front of the plane.
Was there an explosion?
I didn't hear of an explosion. I think the fuel just lit when I think a wing was damaged and the fuel lit. And then we had runoff for a couple hundred feet to a storm drain, and then that lit, and so we've been dealing with that.
And that has all, it seemed, for the most part, burned off. And that's just based upon the smoke. Are you trying to get in there and look, or how can you tell?
We will when we make sure that it's safe.
So right now, still an active scene, and you're keeping people back. Is that still? Have any idea how long that's going to be?
Probably at least a few more hours for the active scene, but we'll be here till tomorrow morning protecting the evidence of the crash.
No, I was just thinking earlier, and it struck me as I was talking to Terry Barnett with Carter County EMS, remarkable that there was an ambulance with active EMS on duty a few hundred yards away.
Everything happened under a situation like this, actually the best that it could. EMS is close by, fire department's close by, law enforcement's close by. This is an extremely busy time, 3:30, 3:38 for this roadway, very heavily traveled road. So we're extremely blessed and thankful that no one was hurt.
I know that there is potentially going to be a media briefing tonight. Is that still
Correct.
The plan?
Yes, it's still the plan.
And NTSB and FAA still coming. Is that what you've been told?
Correct.
Yes.
That's the best. Right now, as far as an ETA estimated time of getting here, I can't tell you.
What are you saying? I'm sorry.
Tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning. Okay. You have the Tennessee Center for Applied Technology, a state higher education center across the street here, where technically it's closed. Is that part of the plan from what you all are hearing to try to get that traffic access by tomorrow morning?
We're hoping to. At least one lane in each direction.
I appreciate you both. Chief Barry Carrier, thank you. Sheriff Dexter Lunsford, thank you. I appreciate it. We are going to, I'm sure, be talking more as we go through the evening ahead. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
We've been listening in there to the reporter there on the scene from our local CBS affiliate, Channel 11 there in Elizabethton, Tennessee, obviously with some new information from fire officials there. Again, I want to go back to this Google map and show you again where we're talking about where this plane is and where the FAA says they were coming from. Obviously, runway 24, as we've been talking about, right here at this one strip airport, the crash site, down here off the end of the runway. And now we're talking about this highway. And let me zoom in so I can get the number, I believe. He said 91, yep. Highway 91 here, you can see this drainage ditch runs right under it. So there's dealing with, the estimated earlier, 1,000 gallons of Jet A fuel that ran under that. There was a fire under the road. So now, since the fire chief has said that fire is out, so that is good news. And again, it was playing this video in the middle of that press conference so you could see it, but they were talking about there must have been some moments before, obviously, this intense fire there that the Earnhardt family was able to get out of this Cessna Citation jet, and you can see it there on its side in the middle of the highway. Just looking at the pictures just now from that live picture we were looking at in the middle of the press conference, you can see that plane is almost completely burned up. But 1,000 gallons of jet fuel, the estimate of what came out of there, and thankfully there must have been a moment between the plane going off the end of the runway and the fire erupting that this family, their obviously Dale Earnhardt, his wife, their daughter Isla, their family's dog, as well as a passenger and the pilot were able to get out. And the fire chief there just said that they found them at the front of the plane near the fuselage, or outside of the fuselage, when firefighters got there. So thankfully it does appear at least that the fire is out. Going to go back to that live picture so we can look at the scene here. And you can see this is just outside of the airport. The plane, again, in the middle of Highway 91, where it ran off the end of the runway. Of course, we're going to continue to follow this story here in the KHOU 11 newsroom. Any updates, of course, when it comes to the family's condition, we'll pass it along. We're being told that at least everyone appears to be okay. Dale Earnhardt Jr. did go to the hospital to get checked out. Don't know any updates since he left the scene, but thankfully people there saying that the family, everyone is okay. So with that, I'll leave it there. We'll put any updates on KHOU.com, and any breaking news will always be here on all of our digital platforms.